Sorry. This week, I want to talk about a little bit about Shavuos, but it's a little different to how you understand Shavuos until now. Shavuos is a yontif to do with Matan Torah. It's a man, Matan Torah Seinu, right? The yontif of the beginning of the Torah. Well, I got money. And the first question that comes to play is Shavuos is a man Matan Torah Seinu? As Rabbi will tell you very clearly, that on this man of the 6th of Sivan was not when the Torah was given. The Torah was given on the 7th. And we celebrate 2 days, 6 and 7. And my kasha, that when we say it's Matan Torah Seinu, is a question that Magen Avraham, I think, asks the question. Right? That it's not Matan Torah Seinu.
Is it also 2 days?
It is 2 days, and the second day is Matan Torah Seinu, not the first. So we're going to see something interesting, a little bit about the question that why we call it Matan Torah Seinu. And I think the Chasam Sefer has a tshuva. There was once a situation where a woman, her husband was in the matzav of Safik Aguna. What does a Safik Aguna mean? Where her husband was dying, and the husband's brother, they did not know where he was, and she was a shemer. She had no children. She was a shemeres yavam, and her husband was dying, and it was the second day, Shavuos. And the story goes something to the effect that the Rav said, listen, if we let this woman go through without a get on the second day of Shavuos, we are going to be in for big trouble because he's going to be dying. He's on his verge of death. And we need to write a get. But it's second day Shavuos. You can't write a get on Shavuos. So the Rav Paskind, since the second day of Shavuos is Drabanon, maybe we can use a Drabanon dika situation. We'll get a goy to write the whole thing, and we'll do a kindle through the goy, and that's the way how we're going to make the which the Chasam Sefer was furious about, because he says of all Yom Tomim, the second day Shavuos is really the Zman Matan Torah Seinu. And it's actually more valuable than the regular second day Yom Tov, because that day of Shavuos really does not belong to 2 days. There's no such thing as 2 days. But Chazal were koveya that we have 2 days. So this was really the beauty of the Torah, where the Torah was given to mankind. Moshe Rabbeinu also was Hosef Yom Echad. Moshe Rabbeinu himself added an extra day. So it's called Zman Matan Torah Seinu because it was the Zman which Moshe Rabbeinu added on, which showed that we're in charge of the Torah. And that's really what says Zman Matan Torah Seinu, because Moshe Rabbeinu really changed it from the 6th day to the 7th day. And that is the kayach of what we were given at Matan Torah. So it's a very appropriate name to be given Zman Matan Torah Seinu. We're in charge of the Torah. Now I'm going to give you a very, very interesting chat based on the Hachinuch in the name of Shavuos. And we're going to see a little bit how all these things ties together. But let's understand, what is Shavuos? Shavuos is a very fascinating yontif. It's the most interesting yontif in the fact that there's nothing associated with Shavuos. There's no, except for cheese princes, of course, right? Cheese is very important for Shavuos. You can't have, you're not yaitz to Shavuos without your cheese princes. But what is Shavuos? So there's lots of beautiful pshatim in why we have chalav on Shavuos, beautiful pshatim, very, very deep pshatim, and what chalav is gematria, 40, and the 40 days that Moshe was in Shemayim, and there's all different ideas, and the pots and the pans that they were acid after Matan Torah, they couldn't use it, they had to eat only milchiks. And there's all different pshatim in what the Indian of chalav is. But we're going to now learn a little bit of interesting pshat, which I think I said over once before, and that is a very interesting shot. There's a very interesting mitzvah in the Torah called Leisavashel Gedi Bechalev Imai. You know that? You ever heard of that mitzvah before? What's that mitzvah represent? Bas v'cholov. Terubas. And the mitzvah of mixing them together, right? Or cooking them together, or even getting any hana. The Gemara says three things. Okay, whatever. Why does the Torah write it in such a format? So I'm going to give you a very, very beautiful Ramban, which I think, remember that Ramban? A beautiful Ramban in the Indian of why did the Torah write Kerzei l'savashel bas v'cholov? Why does it write Gedi b'chalev imai? Gedi is a baby goat, and the kid in the milk of its mother. Says the Ramban. It says a very interesting pasuk. The pasuk is Am Kadosh Ata L'Hashem Elokeinu. It's a pasuk in Devarim. L'savashel Gedi b'chalev imai. You're a holy nation. L'savashel Gedi. So what's that got to do with holiness? Says the Ramban. It's a tam. What's a tam? Because you're holy, that's why you mustn't do this. Says the Ramban, a very interesting svara. Says the Ramban, a major svara. Beautiful Ramban. Tamador. It's a reason, says the Ramban. You should know that all food is also to you because of a very, very important reason. It's unhealthy. It's unhealthy spiritually or unhealthy physically. Most times physically, by the way. He says it's physically unhealthy. The animals that are treif are physically unhealthy. However, Gedi b'chalev imai is got no physical problem whatsoever. There's nothing physically unhealthy about mixing together. You can have your hamburger and it won't do any harm even to your heart, except for the ham or the burger, whichever one is the one. The cheese hamburger, right? There's nothing that does any harm for you physically when it comes to the meat part of it. You know, if you took some nice piece of kosher, what do you call it, burgers, and you put some chicken on, and you put some cheese on top of it, and you put it in your oven, physically it's not going to do you any harm. Spiritually, it's going to do you harm. It's Am Kodesh. What's the spirituality? Says the Hachinuch. Because he calls it, the Ramban, he calls it spiritual act of, he calls it achzorius, cruelty. What's cruelty about? What's cruelty about? Taking chicken, taking a piece of cheese and putting it onto a piece of meat. He says the pasuk is telling the cruelty. The cheese represents the unica of the milk is what a little baby gets to be able to survive. It's the milk of survival for the child, and the meat, the mom, right, is the one who gives it. It's achzorius to take something which is made to support the child and put. It's like killing the mother and the daughter on the same day, mother and child on the same day. You're taking something which is meant to be to promote further generation and growth of the next generation, and you're putting it together and you're cooking them both together. That's achzorius, not goish achzorius, not the definition of cruelty the way you understand cruelty. You hear the Ramban? I think I said it over once before. And the pshat is achzorius. Achzorius means that it's Jewish achzorius. So now we've got a new pshat on why we don't have bas v'cholov. The reason why we don't have bas v'cholov is because we're Am Kodesh. We were chosen on Shavuos to be an Am Kodesh. V'atim tilli v'amlechas koinem v'goy Kodesh, right? So this was what we were chosen on Shavuos. So it's very appropriate that we don't eat milk and meat to show that this is our kedusha, and that's what the Ramban writes. This is a tamadova. The tamadova, we don't eat meat and milk, says the Ramban, is to teach us the message of that we are holy in the fact that we have a deeper understanding of what's right and what's wrong, to the point that that's cruelty to take milk and mix it together with something which is the mother. And that's why the Torah writes it that way. L'sevashel gedi, the baby, b'chalev imoi, in the mother's milk. Because that's what the Torah is trying to point out to us that the Issa is the baby with the mother's milk. That's the point that you're trying to get clear. Okay, so now let's go into a very interesting message of Shavuos. Now, this message of Shavuos, interestingly enough, is brought in the Hachinuch last week. Last week, we had the mitzvah of Yovel. And the Hachinuch says something very fascinating in the mitzvah of Yovel. And he says about the number 7. Number 7 is a fascinating number. In Judaism, he says a very unusual thing, in the way he writes it, and I'll read it to you, because it says that the world is built and our lives are built around the number 7. 7 days a week, 7 weeks until Shavuos, 7 years to Shemitah, 7 Shemitahs to Yovel, and he carries on, and he goes, and he then says something which is very interesting. I'll just read you what he says. And that might be another time in the name Shavuos. Shavuos is not written, the name Shavuos is not written in Torah. But when you see this chinuch, you'll see a very interesting pshat in the name of Shavuos. And he writes like this, Void Shemati, that this way writes Lagabe Yovel. Void Shemati. I want to tell you something else. Mipicha Chomim, Be'in Yesh Be'inyan Yovel Seid Nifla. There's something about Yovel, right? What's it got to do with Shavuos? We'll see. There's something about Yovel that's very fascinating. It's a very deep. Nifla is a wondrous side, which I'm going to teach you. Kivoy nirmas kol yimei olam v'shanav. It, in the idea of Yovel, is understood the world and all the years of the world. Okay, let's see how that's possible. And all these ideas of 7. Shenitztavnu limnos hashonim sheva. We notice that the way how Shemitah works is 7 and 7s and 7s and 7s, all 7s. Fascinating halach. V'lo shemona tisha epachs mehem. This is the chinuch in mitzvah shin lamet. Gam b'zeh amru sheyesh inin shel chochma gedola v'tova. There's something inside this number 7. This sounds like a Chassidish piece over here, or a Sfadi piece. You will never believe this coming from from one of the Rishonim. This sounds like very interesting when I say it. It's got a chochma gedola in this number 7, v'tova, and it's something. There's the good that we can get from it. And it says, Yadanu hey, v'layitzu l'mosul chaladam. The Gedolei Yisrael understood this number 7 business, and they did not hand it over to us. It's not for us to know the depth of the number 7. But, even though they didn't tell us too much about the secret of this number 7, hishkachnu b'dava, we looked into it. Ki umnam hekev hashviosis siddur b'hav mitzvaseinu. We notice that number 7 comes in many different places in our mitzvahs. And hineni machzikam b'malacha. I'm gonna start talking to you about what they are, in the idea of that we do 6 days of Sheish Shamim. We are machzik 6 days of work. Ubashvi nishpais, on the 7th day we rest. So something about the 7th day resting. And then also Nawid Ha'adama Sheishanim, Ubashvi Nishpais. On the 6th, we do 6 years of work in the field, and on the 7th year it rests. And after 7 times 7, Gam Kein Nishpais Shana Achas. Again, we have another 7 situation where we rest. V'zeh Yovel Shabbat. V'nei Chag HaPesach, Shu Shiva Yamin, and V'chag HaSukkos, Kamei Kein Shiva Yamin. There's 7 days of the Yontiv and 7 days of Yontiv. And V'acha has Shiva of Sukkos, Nochuk b'Hatzeres. We have Hatzeres. In Chanukah, in Pesach, it's because all 7 days are still leading to the end and it's still part of a picture. So that's why it's different. But Ba'acha HaShiva Nochuk b'Hatzeres. Nimla Sheva Shabbosis mi Pesach ad Hatzeres. Now we're getting close. Now we also notice the 7 numbers, number 7, I'm going to read you now. You're going to have a nice pshat when you give the Sheva brachas in a second. You're going to have a nice pshat in Sheva brachas. And the whole idea of why you go 7 times round. You never heard any pshat in it, but now you're going to hear a pshat in it. You never heard any pshat in why we go to 7 times round. And what's this Indian of 7 times? We do our kofas 7 times. Yeah, we do a lot of things 7.
Greatest on the 7th day.
Yeah, okay.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, okay, the 7th day evangelist. Okay, fine.
Someone's supposed to catch you.
Okay, 7 something. What's going on over here? We're going to hear something which I've never seen before, except in the Hachinuch. And by the way, if a kid would say this in school, he would get a patch from his rebbe. Okay, watch this line. Watch this. And say, watch this. He's going to get. Well, okay, you wouldn't give him a patch. You'd be nice enough to say, no. There's a difference between 7 and the word shavua, which means a promise, a swearing, right? It's not the same word, Don't make a mistake.
Oh.
No, it is the same word. What's shavua got to do with Sheba? Yeah. Okay, watch this. We're going to listen carefully. The acha minyan hashiva nochel chagatzes. After that, we go to Shavuos. After 7 weeks of counting, we get to Shavuos. It's called Atzeres. And this way it gets into an interesting point. Krisis habris. When we want to make a covenant, and we want to make a solid covenant between two parties, we want to do something, we take 7 and we introduce 7 into the business deal. Like we find, by Avraham Avinu, when he made the bris ben Absarim, Hashem said to him, take 7 lambs. Yes, now watch this. Now it's talking about a kiyum. I want to make something to be solid. I want to consolidate. I want to close the pasha of an agreement between two parties. I want to make a solid agreement that's going to be a kiyum agreement. He says that you use the number 7. Hashem says, take 7. And he says, Bilam Shaya Chacham, he made 7 mizbeachs. You know what I mean? He wanted to make the Indian of the Kalala Chazom with a kiyum. He didn't want it just to be just for that one moment. He wanted to have a kiyum forever. And then he says, also Shabbat, Okamoikain, Lashon Shvua. That's what he said. And also, by the way, when you swear, the word Shvua is really Sheva. You want to be Mekayim the Indian. You want to make the Indian that you're swearing, you want to say that what I'm saying is true, right? So I want to be Mekayim the Indian, and I want to consolidate that what I'm saying is true. So I make a Shvua. So he says the word Sheva and Shvua. Again, you would not let a child say that in class, that Sheva and Shvua is the same thing, but the Chinuch is saying it's rooted in the same message. Sheva is 7. 7 is a completion of something. It's a completion of a cycle, a completion, which after that you get Atzeres, which after that was going to be Yontif. But now I'm just reading a Chinuch. I'm reading a Chassidus Sefer. I'm reading a Chinuch over here. And it's saying also Shavua, the idea of swearing is consolidating the Indian. You're trying to consolidate the fact. I see something's like a little niggling your.
Yeah, I'm curious to know, does the number 7 carry weight in it, even if someone is employing it in an unconscious way? For example, let's say someone eats 7 of an item. Does it now up there do something?
It's the question. I couldn't answer that question.
Or if someone sets a table with 7 cheers, is it now like some sort of better than there had been 6? Better than had 8?
I would say not, and I'll explain to you why not. If he does it because of the number 7, maybe yes. But he's just doing it because it's just 1 plus 1 plus 1, right? Then he's not trying to consolidate. So then it's not doing anything in the fact that he just happened to have written 7. It's not when a guy says, get me 7 lambs and we're going to make it a business deal, I'm asking for the number 7 to induce the power of that concept of 7 lambs to make a bris. I'm trying to create a kiyum. I'm trying to make something with a kiyum. So you're saying, if I eat 7 jelly beans, now do I have anything special just happened to me that I consolidate, that now I become a stronger jelly bean inside me? No, I don't think so. Because the 7 itself doesn't mean anything in the format of you need machshava to make it into the
As
seven.
if you had machshava.
And you had machshava that what would I want to do with the seven? What do I want to do? I want to consolidate what? I want to become as strong as jelly bean.
No. What is?
I want stronger chairs.
I'll explain what I mean. What is the significance to the number 7?
Nothing other than the idea that Hashem chose that number as the world that we have 7 days in the week, which leads us to 7 years. Hashem in the Torah world showed us that there's something very symbolic in 7 in the creation. 7 belongs is a power of the creation. That's what he says over here, and it's in the power of Yovel, and it's the power of the world's existence. The world's existence, according to the Chinuch, is a repetitious of sevens. It's a 7-day week cycle, consistently going around, hitting the Shabbos and starting again.
So seven signifies a cycle.
7 is a cycle, is a completion of something. That's correct.
So if anything, I should go out of my way to make, if I have a business meeting coming up,
Right.
at 7 a.m.
If you wanted to use that idea, but then again, the hour system is that the Jewish hour system?
Okay, the 7th Jewish hour, whenever that is.
Okay, it's the Jewish hour of the day. So if I wanted to do it to consolidate, it doesn't fit. You can't make up your own consolidations. That's what it sounds like. You can do a shvuah that you can do, because the Torah tells you that this is what you can make a shvuah on. You can't make a shvuah on anything. There's certain things which is you can make a shvuah on, some things you can't make a shvuah on. And there's a halachic ramifications of when you are entitled to make a shvuah. Shuas Shiurim, and when Bezdin are machayev you to make a shvuah. You can't. And then there's other shvuahs where you make your own shvuah that you're asking. We're learning the Gemara shvuahs right now. It happens to be 49 blat in Masechtas Shvuos, additional to know. And it's nothing to do with, but there is an Indian to learn. There's some people who have a minute to learn 49 of the blat of Shvuos on Shvuos, because of, I think, from some Sefer. But the idea is, there is a number 49, and there is a number,
Anyone else treat some gold?
no, you can close the door. You can close the door, sure. So the message, let's get to the message though. I don't want to get to the message. Your point is, I don't know the answer.
I'm not trying to make a point. I'm asking a question.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think you can make your own. I don't think you can make your own. I think you have to have, because it's so deep. It's not a normal thing to. We're not mystical people. I mean, theoretically, we don't try to put mystics into our lives, and we don't try to make things mystical. Okay, and let's just go to this. So it says over here, it's okay. You should know ki sheva kivsis tikach miyad v'chein bilam shei chacham also sheva mizbeches v'chein kol lashon shvuah shemetugam kiyum v'amru min hachachamim shehu nigza milashon shiva. So you should know he quotes it from the chachamim. Who's the chachamim? See, I thought they were just it was the amnu b'chachamim. Ein Ramban al HaTorah parashat Bamidbar v'asoid ki hashvuah milashon shiva. Mechein mashma b'mikra b'reishis kisham nishbu, and okay. So when he talks about Chachamim, it doesn't mean the Gemara. At least I got nervous. It's from a Ramban, and the Ramban is in Parashat Bamidbar Lamed. Do you have a regular? Yeah, Parashat Bamidbar Lamed. And we're going to see what he says over here about the number. I never knew this Ramban. Okay, not that I know any Rambans, but this one, I mentioned one earlier, but this one I never knew. And, oh yeah, the Ramban's the Parashas Matis Maseh, which just talks about when a woman makes a shvuah and a husband hears, and this is where the Ramban is quoting from and the Ramban is in Parashat Bamidbar, Hasad Gimel, and this is the Ishki Yida, and over there, the Ramban is the one who says, it's a long Ramban, but the Ramban says, as let's see if we go further. Oh, here it is. Shvuah is what you do normally to Meser, and he says over here, דכסיב נשפט והקיימו, לשמה מצווה, סליחה, מבני כן שבוס בבוד ונידש לסה, איסה, רובק ימסה מקיימו. It's very interesting. I don't see exactly what it says, but it does sort of say the idea that, let's see if we go further, because it is long, all right over here. Shavuot also blush and nether. What does he mean, Shavuot also nether? And then he carries on. Let's say, vanish by nether, mechuyev. And it obviously he was medaike from the Lashon of the Ramban. I looked at this Ramban just now. I'm just doing it very superficially. I don't see anywhere where it's so clear in this Ramban, but it's good enough. V'asoid ki hashvur miloshen shiva. You hear this? And the aside, this is our secret over here, because the word shvur is from the Lashon of 7. As we find, Chavtza Amadeo Shiva. The Haneda Betvuna Rashis Darkoi Kunum Mifolav. So wow, so he says over here clearly that this idea of the word, the site of Shua is from the Lashon of 7. He doesn't say any more. And it just says Chatzva Amadeo Shiva. And Chatzva, I imagine, okay, it was placed, it was the 7 Amudim. Okay, but it means stuck. It was firmed. They're very interesting. So he Mami says that the Lashon Shiva is by Shua. V'chein Rabbi v'le'lisim ata pi. I don't want to talk too much about this. V'ata ben yakir tiske v'tachke v'tiba v'tas tamat varim. When you grow older, you work it through yourself, and you go into it, and you'll see there's lots of things that are 7. And I started thinking to myself, there's a lot of things that are 7. And when you know now this idea of kiyum, it's going to open up a whole new idea of Sheva brachas. You know what are you trying to do when a chassan l'kala is getting married? You know, we do everything around number 7. We try a little bit to try. You do 7 times. We go the kala goes round, right? Because we want to say kiyum inyan. We want to make a kiyum of this relationship between each other, and you're trying to bring out the point as that her life is around her husband, and you want to get that very, very clear. Okay, you want a kiyum inyan, and then you also want to have the idea of sheva brachas. You make 7 brachas, which are the first 7 brachas. You want to make him a chasna. The imit Hashem is going to be kiyum inyan, and there's so many interesting things, and you have 7 meals that each day is another day of the Sheving Meir Bracious, to say that you want a kiyum that for every Sunday, this should be for every Sunday, this should be every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, and you want to make kiyum inyan that there should be Ava Vach V'Sham V'Reus by doing it in the Lashon of Sheva. So that is a very interesting idea, and it actually opens up why Yaakov Avinu chose the number 7 of the amount of years he decided to work for, Lavan. To get the 7 again, 7, and he said Malash Zeis is where we learn it from. We learn it from the whole idea of Shabrach. So there's a lot of interesting things that you never realize that number 7 comes into the idea of consolidating a fact. And I was thinking on Yom Kippur, we say Hashem Hu Elokim 7 times. And that's, again, a message that we want to say to ourselves. We want to consolidate in the idea of ourselves, of Hashem Hu Elokim at the end of Yom Kippur. Is the biggest message that we could give out. We can't say Shema Yisrael the 7 times, because you know, I say Shema Yisrael more than once.
It's not considered a pasuk.
Correct.
It's not, but the rest of Shema is.
No, you say, what do you mean? It is a pasuk. It's a pasuk.
Can't I say any pasuk whenever I...
No, but you don't say Hashem Echad. Not if you're Mekabel Emach Shemaim. There's only one Hashem. So we in Krishma we're not allowed to say Shema Yisrael twice.
You mean if you're saying it?
Yeah, if you're saying
But
you're saying it. No. If you're just reading a pasuk, you'll have to read a pasuk.
Right.
Many times you do Shnai Mikra Vechatagim.
The first pasuk.
But when you do Shnai Mikra Vechatagim, no problem saying Shema Yisrael.
That's a pasuk, right?
It's a pasuk. So the message, though, is a very important message, and that is that we have to realize that there is a very important point for the name Shavuos. Now we've got another message of the name Shavuos. We always say Sheva Shavuos Tispalach. It's called weeks. It's the festival of weeks. That's how the translation is. But now it's the festival of number 7. It's the kiyum of the bris of Klal Yisrael with Hashem on the Torah. So over there, the word says, why did we do 7 weeks of counting? Because we wanted to inculcate 7 messages, the 7 messages of the Omer, and the 7 ideas. So these are part of Matan Torah. For Matan Torah, we had to have inculcated ourselves 7 somethings, whether it's weeks or it's 7 weeks of mitzvahs. And doing 7 weeks of the same mitzvah itself is a very powerful message of what we need to do to be able to be makdish ourselves and gives kedusha to ourselves for Matan Torah. And one of the things that people don't realize, there's a mitzvah in the Torah to count Sfiras Omer. It's not the number as much as it is. And there's a bahag, by the way, the Pascha's la'alocha. We use it. We don't use it bahag, but the bahag's shitta is that if you made a mistake and you forgot one day, you can't carry on anymore. You missed. The mitzvah is of completion of the counting. It's not good enough just to say, I counted up to day 24. You have to have completed the 49 to make the one mitzvah, and altogether of that completion of the 7 weeks of counting. So there's a completion of 7 weeks of counting which is needed for Matan Torah. So the message that I want to bring out is that, listen, when we go to Shavuos, we've got to realize that we're, first of all, Am Kaddish. In the whole message of Shavuos, and why we have the idea of Basa v'Chalav we spoke out, is that we're Am Kaddish. And the whole message of Shavuos, not the whole, that's a citing a message, that we were chosen as, a goy doesn't have this. We were Am HaNivcha. So how do we distinguish ourselves? In not because of the fact that we don't eat treifa food, because treifa food is not healthy for us. The reason how we distinguish ourselves is by not eating kosher food, which is not good for our midas. That's because we're Am Kodesh, because we're a holy nation. And eating milk and meat is the distinguishing part to a Jew over a goy. It shows the kedusha that we have. And Hashem said to us that we were chosen to be Am Kodesh, and we were chosen to be a holy nation on that day of Matan Torah. And this is how it shows itself. It shows itself with Basa v'Chalav. But we have to also remember that we just finished a cycle of 7 weeks of counting, and says that, and what that does is makes us into a better Jew. And we needed it. We needed it to be able to have Kabbalas HaTorah, 7 weeks of a constant mitzvah. And also, we have to realize that the whole purpose of why we left Mitzrayim was for the Torah that we received. And the message is meant to be that when we come to Shavuos and Hashem, we're meant to be somebody who's reborn. And I think I mentioned to you a few times the Chinuch's reason of what you're meant to think about when you go into the mikveh. Did I ever mention to you the reason why you meant to, when you go to mikveh? The Chinuch writes in Parashat Metzora, he writes that the reason why the mikveh works is the concept of a mikveh is it's the world before creation had the Ruach the first creation was water, and we go down below water and we come up clean. And just like a guy was just now become reborn. And when a person becomes a ger, and on our Shavuos become Matan Torah is we have a new Matan Torah, we become reborn as Jews. We have what they call reborn Jews. And that happens on Shavuos. And we become new Jews. And our message is that whatever was the past is the past. But B'shas, even Hazish writes in the person should realize, I mean, this is the gear for every time that he Kriyas HaTorah. The Bima represents Har Sinai. You know that? And you know the Gabbai represents Hashem. Okay? And the Baal Korah represents, you never believe it, huh?
So interesting.
Yeah, so interesting. And I'll show it to you inside. I want to bring Mishnah Berurah Chelek Beis. I'll just show it to you. I'll read it to you because you won't believe it. Chelek Beis. Because it's wild. It's too wild. It's quote it, right? No, you can't believe you can't believe me unless, I mean, what's going on over here? I'm going to read you the words of the Mishnah Berurah. So you should never think that I'm going to ever quote to you. It says the Mishnah Berurah. It says the Shulchan Aruch. Im Shlich Sizer Reitze Levarach Atzmei Velikris Sachshamet Acha Etzlei Kishem Shenitna. If the guy who's a Shlich Tzibah wants to get the Aliyah and also be Kaira, he's allowed to, but he should always have somebody standing next to him. He says, Kishem Sheaten Nitna Aydei Sirso Kach Anu Tzrichin Linig Ba Aydei Sirso. What does that mean? It says, Mishnah Berurah. V'hu Moshe Rabbeinu. Tichsev Anochi Aymed Ben Hashem u'Beinecha. Linig Ba Aydei Sirso. Listen to these words. V'noigim hagaboy, this is Mishnah Berurah. Noigim hagaboy oy hakoina mitzvahs oymed eitzel Sefer Torah. V'zeh nikra Sagan. He's called the Sagan. Shiur Gimel Hainu Hasagan, and the person, and he said like this: Kadesh Hainu Hasagan who kiviyachol b'makom Hashem Yisparach. The Sagan, which is the Gabbai, he's like a Hashem Yisparach. Shu Mitzava Likrish the Chol Yitza. He calls up. He's the Kaira. He calls up people to the bima. V'akaira and the Baal Kaira who says to b'makom Moshe Rabbeinu. And now I'm going to say to you something very interesting. Va'oila hu mekabel b'makom kol Yisrael. And the guy who gets the aliyah will be shluchosam, and he's the shliach. And now you'll understand the brachas that we make. You never ever thought about it. These brachas is Asher Bachabonu, Asher Naslanu. What's going on over here? Asher Bachabonu is the guy who gets the aliyah. He's the guy who's representing Klal Yisrael. So he's saying Asher Bachabonu. He's reading. We're doing a Kabbalah HaTorah of those words at that point in time, and he's a shliach of the tzibur. And he's going and he's saying, Asher Bachabonu, that we chosen. After he's finished, is Asher Nasan Lono, that we just got the Torah. Yeah? Yeah, what's going on over here? Now you understand the brachas? Did you ever understand the brachas before you got this moment in time? So it's, again, where the Chazir says it's really important on Shavuos to think about this. Halacha Lamaisa. That beam over there is Har Sinai. And the guy, when he's saying, Anochi Hashem, read it inside, in case you misquoted over here. Just read these words. Okay? And the guy who's reading the Sefer Torah, he's Moshe Rabbeinu. The guy getting aliyah is your shliach for Kabbalah Torah, and we're all being makabel the Torah right now. And we have to think we're getting Kabbalah Torah again. And we're
About Torah is
the Baal Korah is Moshe Rabbeinu.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the Baal Korah is Moshe Rabbeinu. And the guy who's listening he's reading about Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us the Torah, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu is being heard. So can you imagine? You ever heard this before in your life? Don't tell that to any gabbai, because he's it'll take it to his head. Another name for don't call me God. Don't call me God. But the message is that when we're going into this year's Shavuos, we've got a new message. We're going to be reborn again. And we're going to be reborn as Jews in the format of Matan Torah, that we're going to have a new Matan Torah again. And that's what it is. It's Man Matan Torah Seinu. And we started off, it's Man Matan Torah Seinu, where we were in charge of the Torah, because really, Torah was meant to be given that day, but Moshe pushed it off for the next day. And you know that when we do, in Eretz Yisrael, they don't do it on the day of Torah. And still we call it Man Matan Torah Seinu, the Magen Avraham asked the Kasha. How can you call it Man Matan Torah Seinu? Matan Torah was on the 7th, and this was and we celebrate Shavuos on the 6th. And this is because this was this man which Hashem chose, and we had the power to change it. And so Matan Torah saying we have the koyach. The Chacham have the koyach of 2 days Yom Tov, which is like crazy. Like that means a bris doesn't happen if let's say it comes out on a Shabbos or wherever it is a second day Yom Tov situation where it's a Sabbath, right? We don't do a lot of things because of the Chachamim said it's din of Yom Tov. So we don't do things which you can't do on Yom Tov. And even it means we don't put on tefillin. We don't put on tefillin on second day Yom Tov, right? And then because Chachamim made the Gezerah, and it's Matan Torah Seinu, we have a koyach of the inyan of second days is most important on Shavuos more than any other Yom Tov. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, fine.
Hope we're about to choose the other thing that